Greetings, brothers. Good evening. How is everybody doing? Please let me know in chat if you can hear me okay. I appreciate that as always. And we're back with army lists. It's been a couple of weeks. I think we missed last week's show because we roasted the mods. Highland Phoenix is in the house. Michael, your list is up for review tonight. I'm like 99% sure I saw your name on the list. Yep. James, good evening. XO7, as always, you're always around. Thank you for being here. Daniel Lindberg, again, thank you for being here. Pac Minis, bonjour. Bonjour back to you, ça va? It's just parley en français un peu. Andy, good evening. Reziel, hello. Robert Watson, evening, guys. How you guys doing? Hope you're well. 14th of August. How the hell are we into the middle of August already? I don't know. This year has just flown past, hasn't it? Okay. Tonight's lists. We've got Michael Huff, H-O-U-G-H-T, H-O-U-G-H, sorry, Michael Huff, is that right? We've got a guy called Chainsword Go Burr, which I thought was a funny name, so props to Chainsword Go Burr. We've got Peter Baldry, and we've got Rhys Jones. We only got 4 submissions this week, which is a low number of submissions, actually. So if you want your list on next week's show, you can obviously just do that by submitting a list over in the community tab, and we'll get it on the list. So there's plenty of spaces for army list reviews if people want them. You're just pretending to be French. Okay. Good evening, Arkin. Not enjoying this weekend's weather. The weather in Scotland has been a lot cooler than I was in England for last week, and it's about 10 degrees colder in Scotland. And honestly, I think it's the one time in my life I've been happy to come home to Scotland's crappy weather. So that's where we're at. And thank you everyone that joined last night for building the Storm Speeder. I'm going to try and magnetize that in the next couple of weeks. And I don't know what my next model purchase is. If anyone's buying anything new, unorthodox for Blood Angels, let me know. I do really like the look of those new Terminators. They do seem very reasonably priced. £42.50 for 10 of them here in the UK, which is pretty cool. Good evening, David. You're waiting on a thunderstorm. We had our thunderstorm today in Scotland, so it's nice and cool here now. Greetings, Anashi. How you doing? And I had one last thing to say. Oh yeah, if you enjoyed tonight's stream at any point, do hit that like button. I do really appreciate everyone that likes all the videos. Okay. Yeah, let's dive into Michael first then. Let me just check. You can see it okay on the screen. Yeah, looks good. We're getting new Terminators. Not so much that we're getting new Terminators, David, but like if you go over to Element Games, and I did post, and you click at this banner at the top, you can get like this is 10 Terminators. Legionnaire start is Terminator Tarto Squad. This is 10 Terminators. Oh, they're cheaper than I thought. 42, not even 42.50. So like, apparently they're out of stock at the moment. This will be a pre-order though, right? Pre-order dispatching this Saturday. Yeah. I was actually curious because I said like if you go to Games Workshop and you search for these Terminators. So I went in and read them £10 more expensive at Games Workshop. So definitely, I mean, use the Element link if you want to buy it in the UK. You save £10. Well, you don't want to save £10. If you do it via the link that I post on the community or at the top of the Blood Angels Commander channel, because there's a little link here, up here in this top right hand corner. If you use the little link here, that helps support the channel as well. But yeah, like if you go over here and look at what you actually get, because I scrolled down and was looking, and it's like this multi-part kit builds 10 Terminators. So you can basically build 2 units of 5 for 42, which seems really cheap. Because like, what are like assault Terminators cost? Yeah, see, they're 36 for 5. So basically, you're getting 5 Terminators for £6. That's cheap. Or it feels cheap. And then when you actually read the blurb, it's like each of these Terminators is armed with a combi bolter and either a power fist, chain fist, or lightning claw. So you can do 5 with combi bolters and lightning claws, and then 5 with chain fists if you want. Which, I mean, I guess you could actually do a pair of lightning claws, but I think the strong way to do these guys would be combi bolters and lightning claws. And if you actually click in on the sprues on Games Workshop, it's interesting. The lightning claws look like they're like... I've never seen lightning claws like this before. I don't know if I can blow that up any bigger. I guess I can blow it up a little bit bigger. So these lightning claws, I guess you just glue them to the back of the power fists, sort of. You would run them as relic Terminators. Pi 1903? Yeah, I mean, they have rules. They'd be relic Terminators. And when you look at the relic Terminators, they're cheap, right? Like 34 points per model. And if you give them the Column B Bolter and the Lightning Claw, then they're arguably the cheapest Terminators because 34 times 5 is 170. So that's a really cheap squad for 170 points. I guess if you added in some chain fists, like on the Sergeant, it's 175. So maybe the Sergeant can have a chain fist, the rest can have lightning claws. Seems pretty decent. So 2 boxes of Bloody Angels Terminators are like 70. Yeah, exactly, James. So this is a really good deal. If you've got look at your resellers, see if you can find these. I think this might be my next. I don't need 10 more Terminators, but it's almost too good to be true. That's what I was saying last night on stream. I'm really pleased with the cost of some of these Forge World models. You know, like a Sicarian is £38. I have no idea how much the old Sicarian was, but I feel like it was double that. I know that like a Leviathan Dreadnought, once you added on the gun arms, you were like 80 quid. So a Leviathan's basically half price of what it was before. Contemptor for £28. That's crazy good. Like Contemptors, I bought a Contemptor not too long ago. I'd be curious to know how much it cost me, but this is the old school Cyclone missile launcher as well. Like when it was circle or it was curved rather than flat. That looks dope, man. Okay, well, we get into some lists. And if you do have a question in chat, please just shout it out. If I miss it, type it again, and we'll get to it. Those are better than Assault Squad claws. They look like a knuckle duster. I've not seen them, but I think I'm going to get some. They look cool, don't they? They're $140 US for. Okay, I mean, the exchange rate and stuff isn't great right now. You paid 72 for a Sicarian 5 years ago. So yeah, the Sicarian's like half price as well. And the grenade harness. I forget what the grenade harness does. What does grenade harness do? 5 points assault D6. I mean, it's fine. I don't think it's amazing. 5 points for it. I think if I was going to pay 5 points, I'd probably rather take the alt cannon than 7-2. It's not bad. Yeah, maybe one day I'll run some of these guys. 2 squads for 350 points is pretty good, though, I think. Terminators are tough to shift. You need to come on a holiday to the UK then and buy up a bunch of Terminators. All right, let's look at Michael's list. Here's the first list for review. So I've tried to work everything into a list. All right, we've got Blood Angels, we've got Warzone Nephilim, we've got the 6-man Voidsman at Arms Squad. So that gives us the potential guaranteed Nachman data if we need it. We've got Dante, who is the Warlord and Heroic Bearing. Did it say how many? So 6 CP, so he's getting +1 from Dante, he's spending 1. We then have a Librarian with Quickening, Unleash Rage. He's a Chief Librarian, and he's got a Jump Pack, and that's it. If you are going to make him the Chief Librarian, you are going to get to pick a 3rd Psychic Power. So your 3rd Psychic Power possibly might want to be Wings here to let you double fly. Or Blood Boil is potentially reasonable. I do think if you were making him a Chief Librarian like this, then the advantage of going Chief Librarian lets you pick the Psychic Mastery Warlord trait. I think if you're not running Mephiston, you 100% want the Psychic Mastery Warlord trait, because it makes your casting much more reliable. I don't see any reason to run a Firstborn Librarian with a Jump Pack if you're not going to give him Rites of War. you're not going to give him null zone, then I think you 100% want to spend a CP and make him the Psychic Master to make your powers more reliable. Otherwise, I would just run Mephiston, even though he's swingy and whatnot, because this guy has no advantages over Mephiston. Apart from, I guess, he moves 5 more inches. But I mean, if you really need Mephiston, you could advance and he could probably keep up, right? You've got the Sangre Priest in there, and he's running a jump pack, and that's it. I mean, that's fine. I think the Sangre Priest is going to benefit a lot from a Warlord trait, probably. Rites of War seems like a really good one here. So I would consider either make this guy the Psychic Master, or make this guy Rites of War. Some people like to run Icon of the Angel and Sangre Priest to get rerolls of charges. Some people like to run Teeth of Terror to make him slap a little bit harder. But I think both of those characters are crying out for Hero of the Chapter upgrades, and I think I would do at least one of them. I don't think you need to start with 6 CP. The Librarian could have an Infernal Pistol. I guess it depends on if you're trying to keep the points down, but the Librarian could have an Infernal Pistol. A single Infernal Pistol can be a bit swingy, though, so I could go either way on that. Miguel says, would you consider the Inquisitor with the CP gain ability as useful? I think he would be useful, but I think you would need to design your army around making him useful. So, like, 2 or 3 Psychers, maybe. 1 Psyker on his own to just do, like, whatever... I think it's called Psychic Interrogation, is fine, I guess, but I haven't had too many problems with CP. I think if you're going to run Dante, or if you're going to run Master of the Codex, you probably don't need to worry too much about having an ability to gain CP every turn. Okay, Incursors. I mean, totally solid here. I love Incursors. I think they're the best troop unit we can have. Maybe just pipping Infiltrators. So yeah, Incursors are good. Death Company with jump packs. We get 2 with Thunderhammers, we get 2 with Power Fists, we get 2 with Infernal Pistols, and then we get some Power Swords. I don't mind your loadout on the Death Company, but I think 7 is a really awkward number. Because 7 makes it 2 CP to Forlorn Fury them. I guess if you're starting on 6 CP, that's okay. But I guess that's why I like to keep them as a 5 to get that 1 CP Forlorn Fury. I probably like to see... I mean, Infernal Pistols and Power Fists against Thunderhammers, like, these cost the same, right? And, like, some people have been saying, like, hey, if you go a bunch of Infernal Pistols and a bunch of Power Fists, they're kind of as good as hammers. And in some ways, I agree, but in other ways, I feel like if you want to make Infernal Pistols and Power Fists work, you need, like, Weight of Fire with Infernal Pistols. So you need, like, 6 Infernal Pistols or something, right? So when you inevitably fail to wound or miss with a bunch of them, you have enough to make it worth your while. Whereas, like, with the Thunderhammers, because the Thunderhammers get 5 attacks if they're an Assault Doctrine, you've got 4 guys with Thunderhammers, you're instantly on 20 attacks, so it doesn't really matter if you miss some. It feels like the Thunderhammers are more reliable, so I think that's probably why most people prefer to go like 3 to 5 hammers in a 5-man squad. 1, you're keeping it to 1 CP for your Forlorn Fury, and 2, you're just making it very reliable. I don't hate this squad, but it's just worth considering the couple of points that I made. Levi says, I think this Librarian with Rite's Visage is a good pick. I don't know if we need Unleash Rage as we aren't playing MSU. BA Libby's seem meh to me. I think Unleash Rage is a good power. It's one of my favourite powers. If you run big squads of guys, like 7s, I mean, even a 5-man squad of Death Company, right? Like 5 Death Company. So they get 2 attack space, they get 3 from their charging, they get 4 from a Doctrine, they get 5 from being Death Company. So, I mean, like, in this squad alone, you've got like 35 attacks in turn 1, right? Is that right? Yeah, 7 times 5. So 35 attacks in turn 1. Like, how many 6s are you realistically going to roll? Like, it would just be 35 times 1.66666, right? So realistically, you're going to roll 5 or 6 6s. If you put some sort of Chapter Master rerolls on them, so you can reroll all your misses, then you're rerolling a bunch of misses to potentially get more 6s again. So like Unleash Rage on a 7-man squad can proc between. Well, I actually did it one game where I got like 12 extra attacks with Unleash Rage from a 7-man squad, or 12 extra hits because of the sixes. And I think I was fighting knights, and it was the difference between me leaving the knight on like 1 or 2 wounds or me killing the knight. So I think Unleash Rage is good on even a squad of 6 or 7 guys. I disagree with that point, but I think that Rites of War and Visage of Death is a good combo. Rites of War on its own is still a good combo. You don't always need to have Visage of Death either. Sangre Ancient with an Infernal Pistol and an axe. I prefer it with a sword, but an axe is fine. I actually have both my Sangre Ancients modelled with axes, so I'm not one to talk. So we are on 4 characters on this list. Again, the Sangre Ancient could be a potential Rites of War carrier. He is good for that because it's not like he can kind of be sacrificed fairly easily to grant you Rites of War. We then get 2 Sangre Guards of 7s, 5 swords, 2 axes in both. Again, these guys would be good for Unleash Rage. There's a good number of extra attacks you can get. Then we actually have a 6 Sangre Guard as well. And I like his distribution of like, I'd say 80% swords is right at the moment. So 5 swords out of 7 models is kind of perfect. We then have 2 squads of eliminators with las fusils, and we've got the whirlwind, and we're sitting pretty on 6 CP. Yeah, so I definitely spend like 2 of these CP before the game starts. The Ancient could definitely take Wrath of Baal. I mean, that's one of the things that the Ancient, one of the most powerful things the Ancient gives is that extra 2 inches of movement. When you're running 4 jump units, then they could benefit tons from that. Wrath of Baal and Rites of War is probably what I would put into this list if it was me. Obviously, you have to put Wrath of Baal in the Ancient. I'd probably put Rites of War potentially in the Ancient as well, because then that means he can kind of just be a bit more sacrificial, keep the priest alive to keep other models alive. And then I do think the librarian could also benefit from the chief librarian if you're that so inclined. Alright, the basic plan is for the Voidsman to hang back on the home objective or to do actions with the whirlwinds by suppressing fire. The Death Company and Sangre Guard to surge forward with 4 characters, yes I know 4, in tow to provide buffs, who will do most of the Butcher's work as a mini Death Star. And Cursors do what Cursors do best, to gain outfield objectives, engage in possibly actions. The Eliminators are used to move, shoot, move tricks to pick off heavy armor and vehicles from a distance. I'm open to options, maybe dropping some of the Death Company, include a bit more hard-hitting firepower. Love the channel, love the grots, keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Michael. Okay, Unleash Rage lets a squad hit as hard as having 1 or 2 extra models, especially if something already hits on 2s. You can take it up 1 more level. Yeah, I mean, Unleash Rage, in, like, so I got 49 hits. So I had Unleash Rage improve the damage output of a Sangre Guard squad by 37%. And yes, that was a good swing, right? Things do swing up and down. It's a dice-based game. But if you have a power that can improve a unit's damage by 40%, that's, or even 35%, which is less. I said 37%. Are you permitted to comment on the new Horus Heresy sold Contemptors of the Leviathan Dreads being used in 40k? Yeah, I feel like there's no reason they can't be used in 40k. I don't know why. What's the, like, those models already exist. They already exist in the codex. People have used the Forge World versions for a while, so there should be no issues there. Yeah, it's an interesting list, and we've seen this list, or we've seen similar lists do really well at some tournaments, right? Like the double las fusel eliminators gives you a little bit of firepower, and I'd say it's a little bit because it's just like 4 shots, strength 8 minus 3 damage. So probably realistically, the best you're ever going to get out of these eliminator squads, each squad is like 3 damage a turn, right? So you have a tiny little bit of chip damage to maybe try and keep the enemy honest. You got the whirlwind to make them fight last. 3 squads of Sangre Guard is so core at the moment with Blood Angels, as is a small Death Company, and as is Incursors. So in my view, there's very little wiggle room at the moment. Like, you've got the Ancient here, and you've got the Eliminators. The Whirlwind is arguably really core as well, because there's not really any other way for Blood Angels to make people fight last, and into some matchups, fight last is going to be super important. I've debated dropping the Whirlwind a lot of times, but I always end up keeping it. So yeah, I think I'd probably go a bit more aggressive with the Voidsman and one squad of Incursors to get points and actions done early. The Librarian needs a third power anyway because he's Chief Librarian. I'd probably make him the Psychic Master, and then I'd probably give the Wrath of Baal to the Ancient. That leaves you 4 CP, and I'd probably spend that fifth. I'd probably spend 1 more CP on getting Rites of War either onto your Priest, I guess. The Librarian wouldn't be able to take it because he's Psychic Master, or the Ancient. Depends if, like when I played the Ancient, I liked running Wrath of Baal and Rites of War on him because I felt like early in the game you need that extra movement, to close down the enemy, to get across the board. But after a couple of turns, once your units have all fanned out, Wrath of Baal's value sort of drops. So at that point, you use him to jump around with Rites of War. And if you think about it, he grants Obsec to himself as well, the Ancient. And he moves 14 because he's got carrying the Wrath of Baal. He gets +1 to his advance roll. So if you roll a 1 on your advance, you're still moving 16 inches. And because you're Obsec, it does mean you can just basically sacrifice him by jumping him onto an enemy objective 16 inches away and just, messing up their primaries for a turn or something like that. So that's totally a valid option. Is this guy the right points? Librarian with the Chief Librarian upgrade. Is that right? 140 points is... Librarian is 90, jump pack. Yeah, okay, yeah. So yeah, no, I think you need to pick a third power. I'd probably go Blood Boil or Wings. I guess you could give him Rites of War, but I think it would be better to make Psychic Mastery. I guess it depends on how you want to play him. Hey, Chainswords Go Burr is in the chat. We're looking at your list next, Chainswords. Thank you so much for subscribing. Mini Armory, do appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, comments on the list is like, the way I see Blood Angels at the moment is like your 3 squads of Sanguinary Guard are super important, as is the Death Company. It could be a 5-man, as is the troops in the battalion. So your wiggle room is on your characters, on the Voidsmen, and on like your Eliminators, really. And the one thing I want to say is I don't run 3 Incursors, but 3 Incursors gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of scoring, right? Like, I only run 2 Incursors and I score not badly, so I feel like with 3 Incursors you're going to be able to score stuff like behind enemy lines or engage or Nachman data really, really effectively. So there could be a question here if like you even need Voidsmen at arms with 3 Incursors, because guerrilla tactics. Yeah. The one in the box doesn't come with a Volkite. I didn't know that. I assumed that the new one would come with a Volkite. I mean, go into the Games Workshop website and you'll be able to see the new... They're just under new and exclusive, aren't they? Like... What does the Contemptor come with then? Or do you have to buy weapon options separately? 8 different range weapon options to choose from. Conversion Beam, Gravis Autocannon, Gravis Bolt Cannon, Gravis Last Cannon, Gravis Melty Cannon, Gravis Plasma Cannon. Okay, no, it does. And Volkite dual covering. Yeah, it comes with a Volkite. What are you on about? Or you wanted double Volkite? Was there 2 versions of the Contemptor there? Ultimate loadout. Oh, the Horus Heresy box doesn't come with Volkite. Yeah, I didn't buy the big box. I'm probably going to buy individual parts that I need when I'm ready to paint. Okay, Michael, let me think. Anything else? It's tough. I mean, like, if you look at Sam's list, he was winning tournaments with something very similar. If you were going to go somewhere else with it, I think your only option is you'd have to drop a character. You'd probably have to drop the Voidsman. You'd probably have to drop the Eliminators. You could maybe fit in a Redemptor Dreadnought. Maybe one of those new Hammer Strike Storm Speeders. Is it the Hammer Strike that's got a ballistic skill of 2? But they're... This... Why is this not working tonight? What's going on? This seems pretty standard for Blood Angels right now. I think it's the Thunder Strike that's got ballistic 2. Yeah, Thunder Strike, 150 points. So, like, the Thunder Strike is the equivalent of 2 squads of Eliminators. It's got the same ballistic skill, it's got slightly less shots, but obviously more wounds, more movement, but then it's going to profile. The only big advantage, or finally, I guess there's one more big disadvantage to a list like this. If you look at no prisoners, right, it's like 10, 20, 30. There's a 7 Death Company, so you're at like 44. 7 Sanguinary Guard. Sorry, 7 Death Company, you're on 46. 7 Sanguinary Guard, you're on, and that's another 7 and a 6. So 19 Sanguinary Guards, that's 38 plus 46 is 84, plus the Squads of Eliminators, 96. So, I mean, you're giving up 10 points for no prisoners. Yeah, they have to wipe out a lot of your stuff. The Voidsman as well. So 101. So potentially you could give up 12 points for no prisoners here, I think. And if an enemy's going to pick a secondary against you that's just like nice and simple, like, hey, they kill your units, and if they kill most of them, they get 12 victory points. That's bad, I guess. So that's kind of why I've moved away from the all infantry list. It does seem strong, and I guess you're not always going to get all your units tabled or whatnot. So you could swap out the Eliminators for Venerable Dread. You could, but then sometimes we talk about one Dreadnought on its own being a bit of a sitting target. I think if you want to go Dreadnoughts, you have to go double Dread. One Dreadnought could just get blown off the board, and then your fire support is gone, I guess. Okay. I mean, or you could go one Dreadnought in like one of those new Storm Speeders, or maybe a couple of those new Storm Speeders. Who knows? You think Eliminators are quite a bit better than the Dreadnought? They are, in terms of like they're very survivable, unless you fight something that ignores cover, and they're going to give you more board control, and they can perform actions, but they are making it much easier for the enemy to take no prisoners against you, right? Because like if you go double Dreadnought, you probably lose. Well, you lose 12 wounds out of those 2 squads of Eliminators. You lose 6 wounds out of that squad of Voidsmen. Then you lose like one other squad of guys, or you lose another character. So suddenly, no prisoners just becomes like 8 victory points against you. I guess for me personally, if I look at a secondary and I think I can only get 8 victory points from it, I'm probably not picking it. Maybe I'm still in an older mindset, like pre-Nephilim mindset. But I wouldn't pick a secondary if I could only get 8 victory points from it. Like, if the enemy had 3 tanks and each one was worth... Each one had like more than 14 wounds or something, so they're worth 3 points each. So you could get 9 points from it. Would you pick that for killing 3 tanks? I feel like you wouldn't. So I think no prisoners makes me feel like the same. Like, the maximum you can get would be 8. So you're probably going to get like 6 or something. And that's my thoughts. What are some tweaks for the normal BA list for fighting a horde army like Orcs or Guard? I mean, that's where like Dreadnoughts can help a lot as well, because you can get some of those Dreadnoughts, like the Redemptor Dreadnoughts. They can have the Onslaught Cannon, that's 8 shots. They can have the Stormbolter, that's 8 shots. They can have the Rocket Pods, that's 3 shots but it's blast. They can have the Plasma, that's 6 shots but it's blast. So against Guard or Orcs, you could potentially get like 23 shots out of a Redemptor Dreadnought. So if you're running 2 of them, that's 46 shots. every wound is probably going to kill a model because they don't have a great save, right? I don't think people are picking no prisoners unless it's going to max. Let's be honest. Most lists pick their secondaries when they're list building, and take an easy one like assassinate. I don't know, man. If I come across an entire infantry army like this, and if you go to a tournament, usually when you go to a tournament, there'll be like a stat sheet that will tell you like what the maximum number of points you can gain from like bring it down. Like if I go to a tournament and it's like, I'm trying to think, I think I played an orc list that had a load of buggies, and I basically said to the guy like, how many points am I going to get for bring it down? He's like, oh, you're going to max it. I'm like, all right, I'm taking bring it down. So like if someone says to me, like, how many points are you going to get for no prisoners? Oh, it's 12. And it's like, oh, but I'm just killing you anyway. Like I have to kill you to win the game. So if I just one of my secondaries is just to kill you and I can get 12 points, well, I'm probably taking it. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is pretty much. I'm trying to think. The tournament that I went to, I think I ran pretty much the same thing. I didn't run Eliminators. I ran Eradicators. I didn't run the third squad of Vanguard Veterans. Sorry, Sangre Guard, I ran Vanguard Veterans. And I ran one less character. I didn't run the Ancient. No, I didn't run the Priest. That was it. I didn't run the Priest. And I don't think anyone picked against no prisoners against me. I think you maybe make a point, but I just don't like creating a list where there's a lot of points to give up, I guess. But I mean, you do you. Lots of food for thought there, Michael. Hopefully, in that list, for example, like the enemy can get 13 points for assassinate. They can get 12 points for no prisoners. If you're okay building a list that will give away those points and essentially give you, if the enemy comes to a map that they're not optimal on, they're thinking like, oh shit, this is going to be a difficult map, and then they go, oh well, I can get 13 points for assassinate or 12 points for no prisoners. You kind of give them an easy choice, and I guess my point is to not give them an easy choice. I like it when the enemy are at the start of the battle going like, crap, there's no good secondaries to pick against your army, is there? Because then they end up picking something that's maybe not ideal, and then you win the game. What secondaries are people gravitating towards? I tend to gravitate towards reliable ones. That's probably like I've literally run Nachman data in probably every game, except like if I run banners. Because Nachman data, you kind of always just score at least 8 and sometimes 12, right? It's very rare you score less than 8 on Nachman data. If they're coming to kill us, they get smacked in the face by Blood Angels. I mean, sometimes. It's not always that simple. Alright, so Chainswords go Burr says, first time posting the list, I really appreciate the Blood Angels content. Okay, thank you, Chainswords. And nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in and chat tonight. The idea coming from scoring Relentless Assault without having to deep strike. I want to make every charge into what I want when I want. Turn 1 through Death Company, enough to get a guy into deployment zone that they want to get killed on the swing back. I mean, not getting killed on the swing back, that's near impossible, but sure. And move a land speeder up to No Man's Land Obscure. Turn 2, I can get a land speeder into the deployment with Sangre Guard jumping up terrain to benefit from cover. And Cursors making great screens pre-game to zone out the enemies and protect Sangre Guard for turn 1 melee threats. Eradicators can go into strategic if I feel I need their mobility, or they screen out my backfield and remain relevant threat along with some assault intercessors. The Redemptor always deploys Obscured and is primarily here to clear chaff into turns 2 and 3, but will also take all the Laz Railgun Knight shooting, which is only real threats. For Sangre Guard, I always take banners as I can deploy them midfield and backfield within Cursors. It generally feels strong with Inquisitor, and Librarian Dread open psychic interrogation when the guys can't deny. The Librarian Dread is also a really good choice for Blade of Sanguinius when I can get it off. I'm willing to take grind oaths or kill secondaries, leaving me very open up for flexible picks. Alright, interesting. Yeah. Cool. Alright, so we've got an Inquisitor with Terrify and Black Shroud. And he's got that Warlord trait that gets him back command points. You're keeping me on my toes with Inquisitor pick. I'm gonna have to look this up. It's funny because I've got a bunch. I've got some Inquisitors, but I don't run them that often. So Terrify is an Overwatch denial 18 inches away. Black Shroud is some sort of armor that's like when resolving an attack made against this model, subtract 1 from the wound roll. I mean, that's fine. It's nothing special, really. And then this lower one is like each time one of your opponents uses a stratagem on a 5-up, you gain a command point. Obviously capped at 1 per turn. Okay. So we start with Dante, who is Heroic Bearing and is the Warlord. This list is starting with 3 CP. We have a Librarian Dreadnought with Unleash Rage, Soul Warden, Wings of Sanguinius, and he is the hero of the chapter. Unleash Rage is great, Wings is great. Soul Warden is an interesting pick on the Librarian Dreadnought, but we'll take it. Sanguinary Priest with Icon of the Angel and Jump Pack, yes, 120 points. Assault Intercessors and Cursors. Okay, so slightly harder for you to do banners or Nat 1 data, but overall it's fine. We then have the Death Company with 3 hammers and 2 power swords. Seems fine. Probably be better if it was 4 hammers, but 5 points cheaper. They obviously have jump packs. The Redemptor with the Stormbolters, the Heavy Onslaught Cannon, the Onslaught Gatling Cannon, the Redemptor Fist. I think you're always better running the Plasma Cannon here, dude. The Heavy Onslaught Cannon does not look very attractive to me at all since Armor of Contempt came out. I mean, I didn't like it before, but the Heavy Onslaught Cannon is Heavy 12, Strength 6, 1 damage. Whereas, like, your Macro Plasma, yes, it can be swingy because it's a Heavy D6, but it does have -4, which is pretty tasty into Armor of Contempt. -4 is pretty tasty into most things, I guess. And I don't mind taking a Mortal Wound on my Redemptor Dreadnought because he's got 13 wounds. So I think you're always just better running the Macro Plasma over the Heavy Onslaught. I actually did a comparison video comparing the two. And I think the Heavy Onslaught, the Heavy Plasma is just much more viable or much more of an all-round weapon. And if you do come up against those things like guards or orcs, you're probably gonna, it's blast, right? So you're gonna get your full Heavy 6, and they're not gonna save. So it's just gonna be more reliable. You got 2 squads of Sanguinary Guard. They're both 7s. They both got a couple of Infernal Pistols, and then they're all swords. So it's great. You got 2 Land Speeders and multi-meltas. You get the Eradicators with just the melt rifles, and then you got the Whirlwind. Okay, interesting that you only have 4 elite slots when we always talk about elites being kind of the most important, or kind of the most sought after Blood Angels. I like the fact that you put 2 Infernal Pistols in both squads. It gives the Infernal Pistols just a little bit more reliability. It seems like when you just have 1 in the squads, how do I send a list, says Atrial. It's easy, dude. You go over to YouTube, /C/Blood Angels Commander, come to a page like this. You click Community, and in the latest community post, you click Comments, and you post your list in here. Apparently 21 minutes ago after we started the stream, a few people started posting lists in, so get your list in sooner if you want to be on next week's show. Sooner rather than later. Alright, Dante, Librarian Dread, Priest, and the Inquisitor. So it's 4 characters, so that's a little bit yuck. But double Land Speeder, Eradicator's Whirlwind, Sanguinary Guard's Death Company Redemptor. For some reason, this list feels a little bit light in points, but I'm guessing it's not light in points. Why do I feel like it feels light in points? 140, 135, 125. So there's 400 points the 2 land speeders, eradicators, and the whirlwind. I guess it's quite a lot of points in characters, right? 165 plus 155 plus 120. So 500 points in characters. Okay, so that's probably why it feels a little bit light. And then like 300 here, and then best part of 800 here. Okay. Yeah, so it's not light at all. Interesting. Interesting. Is there a list show next week, John? I am traveling on the Sunday, so it really depends on how many hours it takes me to get home. The Google Maps said it was going to take like 7 hours, but the trip that we had this week just passed said it was going to take 5.5 hours, and it took me like 9 with the kids. So I guess it's 50-50. You might not, there might be a show next week, but if we're traveling for like 12 hours, I'll probably just do it the week after. Land speeders reliably score relentless assault in turn 2 and 3. Am I feeling better? I'm on antibiotics, so I'm actually feeling really tired tonight. But my infection seems much better. So yeah, on the mend, hopefully. I mean, it makes sense. The double land speeders with multi-meltas, I do like them. I did run 1 land speeder in my list for a little while. I also ran eradicators in my list for a little while. I never tried the eradicators with the Redemptor. In some ways, the Redemptor is going to help the eradicators if you use Wisdom of the Ancient, because then you can improve either their wounding rolls or their shooting rolls, I guess. 3 jump units is fine. I much prefer 4 jump units. Be it a squad of Vanguard Vets or be it a squad of Sangre Guard. I was kind of thinking, like, could you get rid of one of the land speeders and like jump out 2 guys and get like a 3rd squad of Sangre Guard? I mean, it would be possible, but maybe if you lost like one of your characters as well, it would be more viable. I mean, overall, it's a pretty decent list. It does everything that Blood Angels want to do. There is this unwritten rule that like one dreadnought doesn't on its own doesn't work so well, but I mean, you could argue 1 squad of eradicators on their own don't work so well either. I mean, I took that to a tournament and didn't really well, I lost at the top table and didn't win the tournament with 1 squad of eradicators, so there could have been an argument there where if they'd had some backup from a Redemptor dreadnought, that would be much better. I really think you don't want the heavy onslaught cannon, though, dude. It's just the heavy onslaught cannon is going to help you against horde lists, but then when you come up against like an armor list, it's going to do nothing. And if the enemy is running stuff like use eradicators is a good example. If you were running a Redemptor dreadnought with a heavy onslaught cannon, and I think the heavy onslaught cannon has less range in the plasma as well, right? It's 30 inches. Yeah. So like, take your heavy onslaught, heavy 12. You know, whatever it is, 12 times 0.333, right? And then wounding on 0.333. And then it's -1, so eradicators would get to ignore it, so they save. So like your heavy onslaught cannon, heavy 12 into a squad of eradicators is going to do 1.7 wounds or something. Whereas like when you shoot the plasma into them, they're only going to save on 6s. Your strength 9, so you're going to hit on the same, you're going to wound on 3s, and then they're only going to save on 6s, and each failed save is a dead eradicator. And then you outrange the eradicators by 12 inches as well. So you can essentially, eradicators can only move 5 and advance 6. So you can outrange eradicators with a Redemptor dreadnought, use the macro plasma, pick off the enemy eradicators before they can even shoot back. We know how deadly eradicators can be. I think the heavy onslaught cannon, yeah, it's good against some things, but I just don't think it's a versatile weapon. The only stuff that heavy onslaught cannon is better into is stuff that bolters decently kill as well, and you'll have plenty of bolters in this list, right? The Sanguinary Guard are all on bolters. Your Redemptor already has a regular onslaught cannon and bolters, and then you got bolters on all these guys as well. So that's probably the main thing I would say about changing. I understand the Soul Warden pick. Two Psychers does give you that Psychic Interrogation option. The Land Speeders and the Forlorn Fury Death Company give you the Relentless Assault option. Yeah, and I mean, if you think about the list that I was running, I was basically thinking running like 2 Redemptors or a Redemptor and a Storm Speeder, which is very similar to this. So maybe it's absolutely fine. I do always just think that we do more damage in melee combat than we ever do in shooting, which is why I would err on like a 3rd melee unit if you can fit it in, but sorry, a 4th melee unit, I guess, Death Company and 2 Sanguinary Guards. And Sanguinary Guards work well in 7s, but 6s are viable as well, so, I mean, you could consider maybe if you move 2 guys out the squad, then you're halfway to creating another smaller squad of Sanguinary Guard as well. They don't all need to do the exact same role, so or you could do Lightning Claw Vanguard Veterans. I still think there's place there. Or you could do, you know, more naked Death Company, just 5 Death Company with Chainswords. That's an option too, right? If it's a distraction thread, I'd still give it the better weapon. I saw the Redemptor, I'd quickly ignore it and target the SG anyway. Yeah, and I mean, if the enemy decides to ignore a Redemptor with a heavy macro plasma on it, and you roll 6 on the number of shots, and you get some rerolls from Dante or something, it can still do a lot of damage. The Redemptor Dreadnoughts are swingy, but on the heavy macro. But I mean, sometimes that heavy macro can be really good. When I was running 2 Redemptors at tournament, I ran them at a couple of tournaments last year. I felt like people either ignored my Redemptor Dreadnoughts and go after all the jump units, and then the Redemptors can essentially win the game, or vice versa. They would go after the Redemptors, they'd ignore the jump units, and then the jump units would win the game. I'm not sure Eradicators and Land Speeders do the same, but scoring is a little bit different now. So hopefully that's some perspective on your list. The only other thing I would say is like Rites of War is such a good pick right now. Because it can daisy chain and it can add obsec to units. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there's room for Rites of War, but I mean, your Sanguinary Priest could take Rites of War. Still start with 2 CP, that's still enough for 1 Forlorn Fury. I would say Rites of War might be a viable thing to give your Sanguinary Priest pretty much everything in your list except the Land Speeders or Core, right? I guess the Whirlwind. You wouldn't, and then the Sanguinary Priest is bringing some obsec to your list, which is pretty nice. Good evening, Brew and Biscuits. How you doing? One way to fix their swinginess is to run 2d6 solves the swinginess. That's probably why one of the reasons that people really rate Redemptors. I really want to run a Leviathan actually, Turkey. I was thinking my next list might run a Leviathan just because I know Leviathans don't have core, but what I do like is they're 2-up save. So I guess like with Armor of Contempt, they're, you know, normally people kill Redemptors by hitting them with a ton of chaff firepower, you know, like -1 and -2, and then the Redemptor's only saving on like a 4-up, and yeah, you always lose some wounds, and then over the course of the game, the Redemptor ends up dying because, like, I think against the Eldar player I played last week, he did like 8 wounds to the Redemptor with Dire Avengers or something like that. Whereas, like, I was thinking with a Leviathan on 2-up save, Yes, they don't have core, which is annoying, but if you arm it with the drill and like the grav flux cannon, you could just walk it across the map and be like, you have to hit this with like really heavy firepower. Because if they hit it with like -1, you're saving on a 2-up. If they hit it with -2, you're saving on a 3-up, and you're -1 damage, obviously. And yeah, it does cost 1 CP, but the other thing is Leviathans can smokescreen. Redemptors cannot. So Leviathan has another way of just adding more survivability as well. Okay. So if you think about it this way, Leviathan has 1-up on its save, and it can do -1 to hit. Basically, that would be 16% increased survivability on save and 16% increased survivability on the hit. So, was he playing all the way? Yeah. I got absolutely worked, Manuel. It was disgusting. All right. So Peter says, "Hi, Blood Angels Commander. Thanks for your great content. List for review below. The theme of this one is MSU variety, a mix of fast jump units with slow but steady core. Death Company to Alpha Strike with Chapter Masters, Sanguinary Priests and Librarians buff to take out the highest threats, Vanguard Veterans to target troops, Sanguinary Guard to target more elite units, along with Chapter Master, Terminators and Sanguinary Guard will push the middle, and Cursor and Eliminators will skirmish, Assault Intercessors, Land Speeder, Tap Bite may go into reserve, Whirlwind to hold a back objective and suppress where needed, Librarian will use Wings to travel where needed, buffing the Death Company. I've been undecided between Terminators and the cheaper Terminator Librarian. I need to be back in just 1 second. I need like a fancy message that's like, like we interrupt this program with, oh hey Miles, how you doing? We interrupt this program because my daughter has woken up again. I'm undecided between Terminators and the cheaper Terminator Librarian and go for cheaper Blade Guard and the more expensive Jump Librarian. Is Wings enough to overcome the Terminator armor's short movement, or do you need to lose some of the survivability for the extra jump distance? I mean, Wings is enough to overcome his survivability. I guess the question is, is he the Psychic Master? Because otherwise, Wings can be a bit unreliable. And if you ever watch any of my streams, you'll see Mephiston likes to fail Wings when it's really important that he doesn't fail it. So, all right, let's have a look. 2 CP, 2,000 points, and don't ever start. I think below 2 or 3 CP. I think in the new edition seems to be the consensus, right? So, Chapter Master, who's running Angel's Artifice, Infernal Pistol, Iron Resolve, Mastercrafted Relic Blade, Artisan of War, Angel's Artifice. Artisan of War lets you pick Mastercrafted Weapon, Angel's Artifice, Warlord, and Iron Resolve. Okay, so he's got a 3 damage Relic Blade, he's got an extra wound, he's got a 6-up Feel No Pain, and he's got an extra toughness and another extra wound. So he's toughness 5. How many wounds does a captain normally have? 5? So he's got 7 wounds? Yes, he's got 7 wounds. He's got 3 damage Relic Blade. He's got 6 up, feel no pain, and he's toughness 5. Alright, we then have Librarian and Terminator Armor, who's got Unleash and Wings. He's got the Force Sword and he's got Smite. Like I said, I think if you want him to be reliable, he needs to be the Psychic Master. It's like, it really does improve your reliability from powers quite a lot. We then have the Sanguinary Priest, who has no jump pack, and he's running the Teeth of Terra. This is an interesting choice, because I guess the Sanguinary Priest is going to be highly immobile. Assault Intercessors and Cursors ×2. Death Company Dreadnought with Furioso Fists. Heavy Flamer Melta Gun and the Smoke Launcher. Same Death Company we saw in the last game, so the last list, 3 hammers, 2 power swords, an Ironclad. I'm looking forward to getting an Ironclad. I did a commission on an Ironclad Dreadnought, I think, like a little while ago. Hasn't come through yet, but hopefully I get it soon. I think the Ironclad's a pretty interesting one just because he's T8. And he's deadly in melee. If you take the Chain Fist and the combat weapon, I think he's beastie in melee, and he's going to be difficult to charge with a couple of heavy flamers, right? We got 5 Sanguinary Guard, 3 swords, 2 axes. We got a regular Terminator squad, 2 Chain Fists, 2 Power Fists, and obviously the Power Sword and the Sergeant. If you're going to run the regular Terminators, I'd try and find the 5 points to get the... Try and find the 5 points to get the Teleport Homer in there, and I'd always take Chain Fists over Power Fists. Because Chain Fists are always 3 damage against vehicles, and they're D3 damage against everything else, which is basically 2 damage anyway. If you roll enough D3s, you're going to end up with 2 damage. So the Power Fists, to me, feel like just a worse choice. If you've got the Chain Fist models, I'd always take the Chain Fists. We then have Vanguard Vets with Lightning Claws on Storm Shield, Sergeant with Infernal Pistol on the Power Fist. We've got a Tat Bike ×1 with a Multi-Melta. We've got a Land Speeder ×1 with a Multi-Melta. We've got 2 of those Eliminator squads with Las Fusils. Captain with the double move, and then the Whirlwind. It's interesting to see how much synergy, or how much is shared between a bunch of these lists. You know, Whirlwind shared in so many lists, Land Speeder shared in so many lists, and Cursors and these Death Companies are shared in so many lists. What's interesting, I guess, in this list is you're going for a single attack bike. I guess it's okay because it's cheap to reserve. It can still do stuff like behind enemy lines. Chain Fists also have higher AP. Thanks for pointing that out. I forget that they have -4 AP on the Chain Fist, I think. So yeah, I think the Chain Fist is just all round. When I ran, because I ran a list to GT that had a Terminator squad precisely like this, with a Teleport Homer, with 4 Chain Fists, and the reason that I was doing it was like it was in that meta where Orc vehicles were everywhere, and 4 Terminators with Chain Fists with Fury the First will just they're deadly to vehicles, I guess. So Ironclad, Death Company, Dreadnought. So you get 2 slow Dreadnoughts moving across the map. I guess you got the Death Company to try and buy them some time. You've got that 1 squad of Sanguinary Guard. I feel really sad about it just being 1 squad because they're so good right now. But I mean, Terminators are great. 3 wounds per model. Armor of Contempt. Drop them into cover, shoot a bunch of stuff out with your Stormbolters, make some charges. I think they're viable. With the ability to get shorter range charges now, with the new 2-inch obscuring terrain nonsense. That's cool. Vanguard Veterans with Lightning Claws are arguably much weaker into Armor of Contempt now, but they're also decent. This list brings a little bit of firepower in that there's like a couple of Multi-Meltas, 4 of those Las Fusils, and then it's very much... It's probably like it's quite a strong core. You know, like the Vanguard veterans with the 4-up save, the Terminators obviously have an invulnerable save and a good save, and then you've got your 2 Dreadnoughts, Ironclad toughness 8, Death Company toughness 7, but with a 6-up shrug. Um, it's different to what we've seen, but I think the Librarian Terminator armor, I think if you made him Chief Librarian, I could get on board with it. And I don't think Teeth of Terror is a good pick if the Sanguinary Priest doesn't have a jump pack. Because, like, what, he's just going to walk across the board and get to the enemy? I mean, he's only got 4 wounds and he doesn't have a great save. I'd lose the Teeth of Terror and I'd make your Librarian the Chief Librarian, and then that keeps you on 2 CP. Obviously, you're going to have to pay like 25 points to make him the Chief Librarian, so you're going to have to drop something elsewhere. Maybe that one attack bike on its own seems like a good choice of dropping. Make your Sanguinary Guard squad have 1 more guy in it and pay the 25 points for Chief Librarian. Leaves you 5 points left over. There's your Teleport Homer on the Terminator squad. That's what I said would be good. Reziel says, I wonder how many lists get submitted that the choices are based on the creator's collection limitations. I mean, I always make my lists with collection limitations, I guess. Yeah, I mean, most people probably don't make lists on things they don't own unless they can paint a hell of a lot quicker than I can. Highland Phoenix thinks you should use the CP for Rights of War or Soul Warden. I mean, arguably both of those would be better as well. The Terminator could run either. If this was me, I'd start the Terminator squad probably in Deep Strike, and then have the Librarian Terminator try and jump and join them, something like that. I might even throw like the Death Company Dreadnought and the attack bike into reserve, because that would be 1 CP or something like that. So they've got like a Dreadnought coming in from reserve and charging. Non-Warhammer question: beans and toast. Could you add some cut up hot dogs? I mean, you could add some cut up hot dogs. Where about in the world do you live, JT Money? Mike says, my current list that I'm taking a tournament next week is based on my current collection. I want another Thunderhammer in my Death Company, but I don't have another painted one, and I doubt I'll have it in time. I mean, you only need to get 3 colours on the model, right, Mike? So you could spray it black, you could paint the shaft of the weapon a different colour. You could do it quickly. I did it pretty quickly when I wanted a 4th Thunderhammer for a tournament. You get baked beans and hot dogs in a can here in the UK. Like, that's a thing you can just buy. Like, yeah, Heinz, they're pretty big. In a rich tomato sauce with pork sausages. I mean, I guess that's supposed to be a sausage there. That's not the best can, but I mean, you can 100% get that. I mean, you can get all day breakfast in a can here in the UK. I mean, if you think that looks appealing, all day breakfast for like $1.50. Trust me, I don't think you'd want it, but I mean, you can do it here in the UK. I like how random our stream gets sometimes. My wife gets the Heinz beans with the mini pork sausages in. You can. I was thinking of buying that for my 2-year-old Highland Phoenix. She loves baked beans. She always wants to eat all the baked beans off. Like, she ignores everything else you put on her plate and just eats the baked beans. I wonder why I go to all the trouble of making her stuff when I can just buy, like, baked beans are like the cheapest thing in the world, right? You get like a whole can for like 15 pence. I just buy those and she just eat that all day, every day. I'm already against it as my eliminators are currently only primed in black. All right, so you've got some painting to do as well. Jeez, okay. Yeah, so I think if you're going to rely on Wings of Sanguinius and you've only got a 5-inch move, I think you want to make him the Chief Librarian. I like the double Dreadnought. I actually don't mind that you've gone 4 different. I like you've got 4 different close combat squads. Because I always think, like, to win games, we need close combat squads, right? So you've got 4 of them, and then your 2 dreadnoughts are also really good in close combat. It's a little bit sad that those 2 dreadnoughts don't really bring any real firepower out with, like, a single melta shot when they're in close range. Your attack bike and land speeder are fine. The eliminators are good. The whirlwind is good. It might be worth trying to fit quake bolts in here on one of these squads of eliminators. That might be actually quake bolts would be a better pick than Teeth of Terra, because you've got Vanguard veterans with a weapon skill of 3, you've got Terminators with a weapon skill of 3. Chinfists aren't -1 to hit, or are they? They are minus. Yeah, Chainfists are -1 to hit. I think the reason I think they're not is because I always end up playing Fury of the First on the Terminators. Yeah, Chainfists are -1 to hit. Yeah, so you got you could negate the -1 to hit the Terminators suffer with Quake bolts. You could make your Vanguard veterans hit on 2s with Quake bolts. You can improve the Death Company with Quake bolts. You can improve both Dreadnoughts, because both Dreadnoughts hit on 3s as well. So basically every single unit in your elite squads, all 6 of them, could be improved with Quake bolts. And this Teeth of Terror isn't going to do you much value, because you're not going to get into melee range for, like, with a 6-inch move across the map, you're not getting melee range for 2 or 3 turns, right? What is that one thing? Chip Buddy. I didn't see a Chip Buddy. What's Chip Buddy? Where was that? Okay, I don't know what Chip Buddy is. What did I miss? Oh, Chip Butty. Butty. That's what we call it. It needs to be done with chunky chips, right? Like like that. So it's basically just 2 slices of bread, buttered, ideally. Like I think the bread needs to be buttered, and then it definitely needs ketchup. It's basically a chip sandwich, right? Uh, Who in stream has not had a chip sandwich? I mean, we just call it. I don't know why we call it a butty. I guess maybe because it's bread with butter on it. Um, I used to eat chip sandwiches all the time when I was younger. Quick bolts is a good shout. You've derailed the show. One viewer on Twitch. I didn't even know there was a Twitch. I'm gonna go there. Yeah, go watch on Twitch if you want. I do appreciate it. Follow on Twitch. I do my streams, my live games go out on Twitch and YouTube. Have you ever had poutine? Yes. I actually had poutine when I was in Orlando, believe it or not. And it's basically chips with cheese curds. I think there's something else in there. It was like 5 years ago I had it. But yeah, we definitely had poutine. Ketchup is gross. Ketchup is not gross. Heinz ketchup isn't great, I'll give you that. But like, if you get like certain ketchups, they can be not bad. Okay. Quake Bolts is going to give you loads of value. Teeth of Terror isn't. Psychic Mastery is going to help. And then I guess you have to decide about this one attack bike. He seems like the thing that has to go, right? Like if you want the Chief Librarian upgrade on that Terminator, and even if you did want to change out that Terminator for like Mephiston, because Mephiston could do a similar job. Arguably, Mephiston's in Terminator armor anyway, right? Because he's on a 2-up save. We just don't have the 5-up invulnerable thing, but with Armor of Contempt, they need to hit him with like -5 to make it worse than a 5-up now, right? So he's on Terminator armor up to -4 EP. There's not many things that are hitting you at -5. Mephiston's obviously got +1 toughness. I forget how many wounds a Terminator and Librarian has, maybe 4 or 5? Librarian and Terminator armor? 5? Okay, so Mephiston has what? 1 more toughness, 1 more wound? And like I said, similar save. Similar weapon as well, I guess. So, and then he obviously has the advantage of having the 3 powers. Yeah, so you could switch out Mephisto here, but again, something's going to have to give, and I think it's going to be the single one attack bike, and I'd improve your Psyker and add another Sangre Guard, because Sangre Guard I think work best in sixes, or sixes and above, and I think you'd have 5 points left over, I'd give the Teleport Homer. Okay. That was Peter Baldry's list. Alright, we're going to move on to the last list for today, Rhys Jones. If you do want to submit your list, please do submit it, and we'll get it on the show possibly next week, but maybe the week after. Did you say like cheap nasty ketchup? Yeah, the cheaper the ketchup, I love deking. Also with coffee as well. Like I love cheap nasty bitter coffee. Um, all that nonsense at Starbucks where you pay like $5 for a cup of coffee, and it's all like cream and sauces and all that. No, just give me the cheapest, nastiest coffee that you have, nice and bitter that will wake you up. That's what I'm all about. Uh, as a French, seeing what you're able to ingest in the morning amazes me as much as it frightens me. I like French breakfast, to be fair. Good evening, Chris. How you doing? Yeah, vinegar for me as well, please. Ketchup is Heinz. Everything else just are trying to be tomato water. Okay, no. You'd love a gas station breakfast in the UK. What in the US? What is a gas station breakfast in the US? Last time I was in the US. Hello, excellent. How you doing? Last time I was in the US, what I loved most for breakfast, and you'll probably hate me for saying this, was I actually love IHOP because it's just pancakes with like syrup, like all the different flavored syrups, and then they just give you like a big flask of like nasty black coffee, and you can just have as many cups of it as you want. You never get that over here. Like they never give you a flask of coffee. Um, I thought it was quality. A fry sandwich is something I never thought of. See, it can't be like when you go to McDonald's and you have like like what's the difference? This stream is so derailed, but it's fine. I'm on antibiotics at the moment, so maybe I'm allowed to be a bit off topic. What's the difference between French fry and a chip? The first one is chips. The second one is fries. Yeah, so like you can't make the sandwich with French fries. It needs to be chips. I don't know if they in America. I know they call crisps chips, so it's really confusing. Um, the first time I went to America, actually, my dad went to like a fast food place and asked for like 2 packets of chips, and he got like crisps, and he was like, "What?" They must have not understood my accent or something because we wanted chips. But yeah, um, you can't make a chip sandwich with French fries. Like it needs to be big fat chips. The most American breakfast is IHOP or Waffle House. Well, that's good because I literally love IHOP. Um, I could eat IHOP almost for every meal a day. Um, you do a chip patty with fries. You need to do the whole sausage to fill out the sandwich. Yeah, no, it needs to be um, not like McDonald's fries or KFC fries. It needs to be big, thick chips. Um, Good evening, Jimmy. How you doing? All right, so we are on Rhys Jones's list, and this is a Vanguard detachment, 1460 points. So he's going to have 2 detachment here. He's got a chaplain with Canticle of Hate. He is the Master of Sanctity, and he's a Power Fist. So this is an old, like, firstborn chaplain you don't see very often. I believe he's a metal model, and he might have been discontinued now. He maybe got discontinued in that last round of remember they discontinued a bunch of models. Yeah, I don't think you can buy him anymore. So he was a firstborn chaplain uh, who had a jump pack and a power fist. I guess if you wanted him now, you'd probably need to buy this Dark Angels version of him. Um, and he's forgot to pick a second power because he upgraded him to Master of Sanctity. So I assume he would take something like Litany of Faith or what's the Mantra of Strength. He then has Death Company with jump packs, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with chainswords and 2 hammers, another 8 with chainswords and 2 hammers, and then Is this 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Alright, so wow, 30 Death Company. Oh shit, we're still going. Oh shit. Okay. 40 Death Company. 10 more with Chainswords. 50 Death Company. Chainswords. Oh shit, we're still going. 60 Death Company. Well, just the Death Company alone, that's giving up 100 and that's giving up your that's giving up 14 points for no prisoners. Just in this one detachment. Okay. Yeah, let's hope he's got Astaroth because we're definitely you I think you lose this chap. I think this chaplain should not be here. I think it should be Astaroth, right? Because all these Death Company with Leadership 7 is a recipe for disaster. Astaroth makes them immune to leadership. Um, I think you might even be better if you want to run this many Death Company. You might even be better just running 5 squads with like 3 hammers in each squad, because 2 hammers is maybe not going to cut it. I'd be willing to drop 10. Like if you drop 10, how many hammers does that give you? Because hammers are 15. So like 210 divided by 15. So you get 14 hammers. So the first 2 squads have 2, and then you'd have 3 more squads. So if you did like, you'd be able to do like 4, 4, 4, and then 3 and 3. I think that would be better. So it would be 2 squads of 10 with 3 hammers, and then 3 squads of 10 with 4 hammers. I think that would be better than, because chainswords are fine. But yeah, the rule of 3. That's a very good point. Some of these would need to be Firstborn Death Company, right? Yeah, you would need to be running Death Company intercessors for a couple of these squads as well. Um, I mean, it would be fun casually. Did he say anything about this list, or did he just submit it? He said this is a crazy list, and the hardest part is getting all the jump packs. He's then got Dante, who's the warlord. He's got the priest, who's the chief apothecary. I guess bringing back a Death Company model every turn would be fine. We've got 2 tactical squads, and we're actually sitting on 40 points left over. Okay, yeah. So you wouldn't be able to run that many Firstborn Death Company. You could run some Death Company intercessors, and maybe if you wanted to make this run work, dare I say it, you want to run like a couple of impulsors. So drop like 2 squad. You what did he have? 6 squads of Death Company. Yeah, so you'd have to drop 3 of them. Beef out the first 3 squads with more hammers. I'd say 4 hammers per squad, maybe 3. Then you could. Tactical Marines are fine. I think you probably want incursors though. Rhys is here and says the game is over in 2 turns. Yeah, you just jump everything forward. I think if you wanted to make this work, you'd need to get like. You could probably do like 3 5-man squads of. How many points are Death Company intercessors? They're just 20 points for a model. So your 3 squads of these guys are 210, and an impulsor is. It's been a while since dedicated transport. Do you know what? It works perfectly. So you could drop all 3 squads of 10, and you could replace them with 3 5-man squads of Death Company intercessors and 3 impulsors. And then the game would be over in 2 turns, because on turn 1 you advance all 3 impulsors forward, and you jump all 3 Death Companies forward. At that point, I'd probably lose the tactical squad to put a Thunderhammer into each squad of Death Company intercessors. And I mean, I don't even know if you need the priest. I guess you need the priest to put something into Assault Doctrine. But maybe you could make the priest cheaper, right? Like lose the jump pack, lose Chief Apothecary. He's just there to get something into the Salt Doctrine and just make sure that there's loads of hammers in all the squads. But yeah, Astaroth, 100%. Take him over this chaplain. Quake bolts would actually be hugely beneficial if you could fit it into this list. Maybe you drop one in the squad of tactical squads, take a squad of eliminators and give them quake bolts, because +1 to hit on all these Death Company is going to be really valuable. Take 3 Death Company Dreads. I think 3 Death Company Dreads could be fun, but I actually think 3 Impulsors would be pretty fun as well. No one runs Impulsors full of Death Company with, you know, Chainswords and Thunderhammers, and those Death Company Intercessors do get a lot of attacks. You know, they get 7 attacks per model, isn't it? Because they start on base 3, yeah. So, I mean, you're talking just 5 guys gives you like 28 Chainswords, like 6 Thunderhammer hits. I think Lamartus starts looking much better for something like this. I mean, Lamartus would be good with this as well, yeah. But yeah, it would almost be silly not to take Astaroth, because there's a lot of leadership to fail here with all these big squads. Death Company Impulsors with Primaris Death Company would be honourable too. I think it would be quite fun, actually. It would be a very Death Company themed list. Not so serious a list then, and the rule of 3 does break it. But I mean, if you're having a friendly game, I'd love to see a photo of your 60 Death Company, all with jump packs, all fully painted, etc. Death Company Intercessors with Chainswords kill a hilarious amount of Eldar. Yeah, I mean, 3 10-man Firstborn Death Company, 3 5-man Primaris Death Company, 3 Impulsors, and then just something to hold on to the backfield. And Quake Bolts is going to be huge as well, because +1 to hit on these guys is going to be pretty important. Their weapon skill 3+ is kind of their biggest downfall, I guess. And Dante's only going to be able to buff so many of them, right? Take a photo and share it on Discord. Love to see it. I'm going to make some Death Company because I have way too many Intercessors. I have so many Assault Intercessors left over from what was that box set called again? Indomitus as well, Rezio. So I'm going to be doing that too. Okay, so that's our lists for this week, guys. Thank you for hanging out. And if you want to submit a list for next week, it seems like a few people have done that already. 50-50 if we're live next week. But if we're not live next week, we will definitely be live the week after. I'm not. Yeah, definitely be live the week after, and then there shouldn't be any more breaks. I'm not away for anything else this year, as far as I know. I was painting an Impulsor black. I don't know if you guys saw it. I painted on stream a couple of times. I need to finish it. But I was trying to freehand some red X's onto the Impulsor, which I found pretty difficult. I was actually trying to freehand red X's onto Outriders, but some of those units really need upgraded because we never see them in games, do we? Alright, thanks for the comment about chip shop chips and keeping the stream entertaining, I guess. I'm sure I'll be back this week as well with another video, tactics video. I've got an idea, so I'm gonna come up with something. I made like a little stencil, Rezio. It seemed to work okay, but I'll have to get back to it. I'm looking forward to finishing that Storm Speeder I was working on last night. I don't know when I'm going to run it, but I would like to finish it in the next little while, so I'll be back to do that on stream soon enough. Yeah, and I think I'm playing Andrew's Sisters of Battle on Wednesday night, so tune in on Wednesday. Is the wet palette going to be featured in a stream? It should be. And from what I've been hearing about Sisters of Battle is they score their points really, really, really effectively. And yeah, so 7:30 on Wednesday night. Hopefully I won't be too tired because I've been getting like 8.5 hours sleep, which is like an hour more sleep than I get. I feel really, really tired. So the antibiotics I'm on are kicking my ass, and I got to take them for like 18 more days or something. So that's gonna be fun. But yeah, we should be live on Wednesday night, Jacob. I'll post up the post up the stream and army list as soon as I know that's going live. And if you did enjoy tonight's stream, please hit that like button. I will see you guys hopefully next week. Yeah, but like 50-50. If I have to drive for like 12 or 13 hours on Sunday, then my brain will be a mess. So possibly not next week. But I'll post a community announcement on Sunday when I get back to see if the stream's going to be live or not. All right. See you guys this week, Wednesday night, and then something on Friday as well. And thanks again for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, guys. Nice to hang out with all of you. Peace.